Billy, we're going to talk about the new album, like Cynical Silence. How do you see this differ as in a progression from the debut album?
Okay. It might not sound like it from like the first time you hear first album with the second album, or even the fifth time or the 10th time. But for me and Bob, it was a huge difference. Of course, we stuck to our original progressive metal 90s sound um, style of writing, but because something very personal happened to me during the songwriting process of Cynical Silence, my lyrics just started becoming darker and darker and weirder and you know uh, just extremely personal. Let's just put it that way, and that reflected off of the music Bob was writing for the second album. So without even discussing it, the second album just came out, like I said, because of our great chemistry between each other. The second album just came out darker, more ambient, I would say, more atmospheric, more melodic, just more everything towards a darker side of what Ethical Dilemma was representing. Um, it's there are huge differences for Bob and myself, but you know, uh, a progressive metal fan might not hear it that way. He might say, you know, okay, great progression from first album to second album, and that's it. But personally, it was a huge difference for myself and for Bob.
Do you think, no disrespect, do you think that's a good thing that you've gone darker on this album? Because I know Realda's new album, like I said, you've not heard it yet, but I've got a copy of it and it's darker and more, I don't know, like it's ambient. He's done the same sort of thing, I think, with his album, detuned guitars. Do you think you've done this with this album?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we didn't actually plan on it, but it came out this way. And it's so strange the way, you know, Ray's second solo album, just like mine, is coming out darker, more ambient, and more atmospheric, and just deeper, more rooted in in darker realms, lyrically and musically. It's not a bad thing. Absolutely not. I write from the heart. I write what I feel in my soul. And like I said, I was going through something very personally turbulent at the time of the songwriting process. And I wasn't going to ignore that. I wasn't going to shun it away. I wasn't going to pretend it's not happening. The best thing an artist can do is express himself, right? So, just like a painter, after he would break up with his significant other, would write, you know, would draw something, you would understand right away that he was there's this rage that came out of him on the canvas. That's exactly how I feel. Cynical Silence came out of my soul and of my heart and from my brain onto the album. Absolutely, I was not gonna make believe that that wasn't happening. I was gonna, let's just say, quote unquote, use it in a good way, in a productive way for the second album.
That's interesting. That's good to hear that, Bill. So, songs from the new album, then, which ones are your favourites? Do you have any favourites?
Favorites. Here you go again.
I always like to put the amount of an
You
artist and
really
make them
do put
think.
me on the spot with some of your questions,
But that's
Jason.
good. That's
Because
good.
yeah, absolutely. That's what makes the interview so interesting. Absolutely, I
I
agree.
know me shit as well, Bill, because like I've been interviewing quite a lot of bands, and recently I've had a few artists saying to me, "You've really hit nerves and really dug deep with your questions."
I completely sign off on that. Absolutely. I've done a bunch of video interviews. This is by far one of the most interesting and most experienced as
Thank
a
you.
host that
Thanks.
I had. Like you said, you've done your homework, man, and that's fantastic for an artist because it just makes everything flow better and a lot easier to deal with it.
Well, I've been around
Favorite,
for like
yeah,
28. I've been a journalist now for 35 years. Started out
there you go.
as a fanzine back in the 80s. So
Fanzines, wow, holy shit, black and white fanzines,
yeah,
man,
yeah, I
damn,
was
wow,
around.
with the cassettes and every. Oh man,
Do you know
you
something?
took.
There was a record shop in Long Island called Slip Disc.
Yeah, of course.
They actually
Of
bought
course.
some
We used to,
they bought some fanzines off me when I was in America. I took some and the guy bought them off me to sell.
I think they're out in Comac unless they left and they went further east. We used to hang out there all the time, man. All the bands. I mean, it was a meeting point. Slip Disc was a meeting point, man. It was just one of those. I don't even know if it's still around. I got to look that up. That's pretty cool. Your question was one of my favorite
First,
songs from
yeah,
Cynical
yeah,
Silence.
yeah. Sorry.
Okay. No, no, not at all. You know what? I really love the last song, "My Island Is Home."
That's is
It's
that about Greece being back home in your home country, kind of relatives and family, and
It could be, Jason. It could be. If you read the lyrics, if you hear the way I'm pouring out my heart and soul vocally on that song, it could be just about anything that you think of that moves you from hearing the actual music of that song.
I will say one thing
Uh,
about your vocals. You've got a distinct voice. You stand out from a lot of vocalists in progressive metal.
Thanks, man. You know what? It's really, really difficult to like you said, like you put it, stand out in the progressive metal vocal world. Everyone's trying to hit those, screeching notes and trying to one guy's trying to outdo the other. Yeah, okay, I used to do that when I was 20. Not now that I'm 50, man. Now it's a completely different ball game for me. I'm just gonna take what I've learned from my vocal teacher and I'm going to insert it into my vocal style. And whatever comes out, that's fine by me. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that I trust my vocals 1000% when I go into the studio and when I perform live. I just trust my voice enough to do what it's got to do without thinking, I'm going to try to sound like this guy. Oh, I think I can do what this guy did. That's done. That's been done for like 20 years, Jason. I have no time to spend trying to sound like somebody else. So I'll take it as a compliment that I have the distinctive voice that you said, because it's very difficult in the metal world to not try to sound like someone.
It's like I say, like Ray Alday's another one's got a distinct voice, and you've got the singer from Psychotic Waltz, Devin Graves. He's got an amazing voice as well.
Amazing, absolutely. Right away, you hear the first sound from the vocal from the note, and you know exactly who you're listening to, even though you don't know anything else from that's
unless
the
we're listening to your band, then we're thinking it's a Fates Warning tribute band.
Hey, if the shoe fits, wear it. That's what they say back home. So yeah, absolutely. That was one point that I was very, very careful about. Of course, we're going to sound as close to the parallels, Perfect Symmetry era with some Inside Out going on, and some Dream Theater and some Queensryche and all that stuff. But vocally, I was not going to be boxed into sounding like Jeff Tate or Labrie or my favorite Ray Alda. It was not going to happen. That's the difference. Like I said in the song from Ethical Dilemma for Purify, if you take away the vocals, you're going to say, okay, this is probably like the demo, the first thing that came out when they wrote Point of View. And then they changed it into what is Point of View today, and that's what they published. If you put my vocals back into Purify, you'll see how different it is from that. Which, like you said, comes back to what you said. Having a distinctive voice gives you that power, gives you that option.
Yeah, definitely. So the artwork done for this second album? Who did the first album? Was it somebody completely different?
Completely different. First album is a portrait. Second album, I wanted a portrait again. Like I said, I wanted a constant to be going through the whole Vass Katsionis saga. Bob disagreed. We got into a huge fight, huge argument. I said, I want to stick to the whole portrait thing. I want to stick to, not a single straight line, not a string, not a single corner, not a single 80-degree, nothing. I want it to be as, somebody brush painted it, but just like the first album, just like, Ethical Dilemma. And he said, absolutely not. We're going with AI. I said, who's that? Is that, and how much do we have to pay him for him to come out with it? He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, what the hell's an AI? And he's like, he explained to me what it is. He put all the lyrics into the whole AI business over there, all the lyrics of the album, and it came out with what you guys see today. Like I said, I want to go on record completely disagreeing with that whole computerized AI thing, but I lost that argument to Bob Katsionis. He won that argument about the cover, and to be quite honest with you, all I've been getting is positive reviews about the album cover, especially after they find out that it came out through AI. Especially after that, like, oh wow, that's fantastic. I didn't know AI could do such, great stuff and all that. I'm old fashioned. I'm old school. Like I said, I wanted a portrait. I wanted brush strokes. And this guy comes up with, this whole computerized thingy, animation, whatever.
Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that film Troy. Not Troy.
Tron.
Tron. No, not Tron.
Not Tron. Dune.
Thor, the Thor film where he's on that planet and it's so black and nothing there. It kind of reminds me of that.
Do you know the bit? Wait a minute. Yeah. Was that?
He comes onto a planet. Yeah, Thor. There's a Thor film where it hits a planet and there's all these creatures and it's so dark and it just reminds me of that.
Oh yeah, you know what? You're right. Where Christian Bale plays the villain.
Yeah,
the bald-headed white villain.
Yeah.
The planet that he blackened completely. You're absolutely right. I never thought of that. Yeah, this album cover could be coming out of that right behind Christian Bale character. Yeah, you're right. I never thought of it that way.
So why is the second album then only releases 300 copies? Why can't people get these albums, or can they?
Of course, from the Bandcamp page, right? I mean, you go in, you order. So
every time you sell out of 300 copies, you keep reprinting through again and again and again. Right.
Absolutely. So Cynical Silence is still on its first edition copy. Ethical Dilemma is on the second edition copy. But like I said, whenever there's a demand, we're not going to disappoint our fans. We're going to keep printing as much as need be. Now to go into the vinyl situation, it's a completely different ball game. You know what I mean? Vinyl is just a completely different ball game, and it's very difficult to pinpoint and pin, exactly what you want to do with the vinyl, how many you want to come out with, how much you want to spend, how much you're going to have to charge for it. Is it actually worth it? Again, Jason, you got to remember it's a business. It's a business, and you got to try to do the best you can for your project.
I mean, I'm a CD man myself. I'm not really into vinyl, but I would love to get both of them albums signed by you and Bob.
Absolutely. We can send out, especially to you, Jason. Such a fan.
Thank you.
That would not be a problem, man. That would not be a problem.
Be awesome to get hold of them. Thanks, Billy. So, have you got any new songs wrote for the next album? You must have some ideas already.
You know what? We're kind of Katsionis and I are kind of on a break from the project songwriting wise, because we totally went into an overload. We overdosed on Bob Katsionis music. The first album came out in 22. Second album comes out early 23. Imagine how much songwriting process was happening, and a year apart. You know what I'm saying? As if everything was ready, which it wasn't. But as if we had things in storage, and we just popped them out and said, "Let's come out with a second album." That's not how it happened. It was all spur of the moment. But that's our creative ability. That's the Bob Katsionis magic between us. Right now, we're taking that a bit of a hiatus. Let's say we're not writing anything new, because we trust each other. I don't have to worry about him not being able to come up with material. He doesn't have to worry about me not being able to come up with lyrics and melodies. We definitely have at least another 2, 3, maybe even 4 albums in us, Jason. I mean, as far as the Bob Katsionis project is successful, we're just going to keep continuing writing this kind of music.
Good. So if you had to change some styles of music, obviously Fate's one of your main priority, what other bands would you put in there if you wanted to add a little difference? Psychotic Waltz, Evergrey, what sort of other bands would you have in there?
Yeah, you know what? I really love the direction that Bob and I took songwriting-wise and creative-wise from the second half of the Cynical Silence album. There are a bunch of album reviews from abroad and from here in Greece that were able to pick up on what Bob and I did in the song list. The song list on both albums was very carefully put together. It wasn't just random. There are 8 songs on Cynical Silence. The first 4 songs represent a certain part of our aggressive side as a project. The last 4 songs you begin to understand that we've turned into a more atmospheric, melodic, ambient, darker, more sinister, let's say, sound musically and lyrically. Now that I've said this, whoever sees this video, this interview, and goes back and hears the songs, like I said, and separates them the way I just did, they're going to smile and say, "Hey, that's what Billy Vass was talking about." So I really like the direction of the last 4 songs on Cynical Silence that we've taken. I would love to see that continue into the third album. Maybe not the whole album, but I love that feel that those 4 last songs from the album resonate. I love it. I really want to key in on that and come out with more material in that sense.
So basically, it's like a flip of a record. 4 songs, you turn the record over.
Absolutely, Jason. If we're going to talk on vinyl terms, that's exactly right. 4 first songs, classic. Let's just say Vass Katsionis progressive metal aggression. You flip it over, sit back, have a glass of wine, maybe smoke some weed, and just check out the last 4 songs because it's completely different. Just takes you somewhere else.
I think if you need smoking weed, you think you need to listen to Psychotic Waltz because they're the band that.
I totally agree with you. I've been there, done that, man. You mentioned a couple of symphonic style.
Yeah,
bands.
Is that the sort of thing you like to do? Because I know Greece is very much into power metal, like they're very power metal influenced.
Nightwish comes here every all those kinds of bands that come here. Even from like classic power metal bands like Halloween, which you're wearing right now, and they'll sell out in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We will never ever go into that direction. Absolutely not. Good. There's nothing symphonic about Vass Katsionis. There's nothing power epic classic metal about Vass Katsionis. It's never going to be. Otherwise, it won't be Vass Katsionis. Like I said, we sought out to do exactly what these 2 first albums have given to the world. Exactly this sound, exactly this kind of progression, this exact kind of 90s style progressive metal that, of course, we all love and enjoy. But we're never going to steer off into some other kind of genre. Never.
That's good.
You're never gonna be able to say, oh, you know what? Like I said before, there's some brushstrokes of like symphonic metal here. That's never going to happen. We're very careful about that, Jason. Very careful.
I'm very much influenced by more Fates Warning, Psychotic Waltz band. I mean, Dream Theater are a great band, but I don't like James LaBrie as a singer. I don't think he can hit the high notes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, James went through something very, very drastic. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it came out a while ago. It happened 20 years ago. He got food poisoning, and it affected his vocal cords.
Wow.
He had to go through surgery because he ate on his vacation. I read this in an interview of his that he ate some shellfish that he was allergic to, and he didn't know it, and he had an allergic reaction, and he got food poisoning from the shellfish, and it affected his vocal cords. That's why I don't remember what album it was, and on, you can hear the drastic change in his range. And of course, live, you can definitely understand that there's a problem there.
Okay.
That's what happened to James. It was a huge disaster. Just on vacation.
That's a shame.
Food poisoning destroyed his vocal cords, man. That's why I'm always like super careful. I don't smoke. I try to keep my voice in shape. I do my exercises and all that because as you get older, of course, you don't have the range that you used to and whatnot. And you adapt the way Ray Alder does, right? He doesn't sound anything like he did 20 years ago.
No.
But in my opinion, he sounds 1,000 times better now. What he's doing now hits me a lot more than what he used to do 20 years ago. Anyway, vocally, it's no one really knows, not a doctor, not a scientist. No one can explain the way vocal cords work. No one can actually explain this. It's just magic. It's not chords on a guitar. It's not bass. It's not hitting a drum pad. It's not hitting a bass drum or anything like that. There's something magical going on in here, and you just got to take care of it. You got to really, really take care of it.
So if you had to pick 2 Fates Warning albums, one with John Arch and one with Ray Alder, which 2 would be your favourites? Let's see if we have the same albums.
Awaken the Guardian, of course.
Right, for me, Spectre Within.
Well, there's a difference.
Both great albums, though.
No, absolutely. I mean, everything from the absolute tough call. Absolutely. That's why I took a breath, because I would have said Spectre, but Awaken Awaken did something to me when I first heard it.
I think
Of
for me,
course, John.
Spectre Was In was the first album that I picked up by Fates Warning. I
Well, there
just
you
saw this
go.
album come. I thought these guys look interesting. Never heard them, played
First
them.
love, right? The
Yeah,
first love.
yeah.
Same thing that happened to me with the vinyl, the LP, the Queensryche EP.
Like
Picked it up,
Queen of the Reich.
black with that name and the yellow and purple around. I was like, what the hell is this? I really got to check this out. And I remember that as my first listening to Queensryche at that time.
I actually saw them
And
on the
from
Warning tour. I saw them on the Warning
yeah,
tour with Deer
yeah,
back in the 80s.
amazing, right? I mean, that was their peak. I mean, that was when they were just like full-blooded, all systems go in that band.
That album for me actually opened up the doorway for American progressive power metal. The Warning.
Absolutely.
That was the album that did it.
I agree. It was Watchtower for me a little bit before Queensryche.
Yeah, I saw them live with Coroner.
Watchtower with Billy White on guitar, Billy White the Texan on guitar, Watchtower, and then right after that is when I picked up the EP in my hands. I was like, I got to check this out, and that's how I went into Queensryche. But you asked me about Ray Alder.
Yeah.
Favorite vocal performance on an album, right? Yeah, of course, it's got to be Parallels. I mean, to this day, listen to that album. Every single time I listen to that album, I'll pick up something new. I really will.
For me, it's No Exit. Just because he was singing so high, it's just like, holy shit.
You like that? Yeah, you like that high pitched stuff.
Rob Alford's my idol. Rob Alford's my favorite singer.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's definitely the point where Ray Alder was like trying to match John Arch, do what Rob Halford was doing, and sticking to his Steve Perry style. All that combined comes out with what he did on No Exit. I'm sure about that. You must love The Arena, where he's screeching, all through the whole song. I mean,
the 50-minute epic.
yeah, I totally understand. Absolutely. But I have to go with Parallels for me. It just, when I first heard it, it moved me, and I'll never forget how much it moved me when I first heard that album.
So have you guys actually done any shows in Greece? Have you just recorded albums and that's it? What's happened out there?
Jason, if I had €1 for every time somebody asked me that, you know what? I'd be a rich man right now. The truth of the matter is that Bob Katsionis is a project.
Right.
You know what? Things here in Greece are not mature enough, let's just put it that way, to support a project like this wanting to go live. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Bob and I are not 20 years old anymore. We're not 30 years old anymore. We're not 40 years old anymore. We can't just do something like this and put something like this together as a live band just for the hell of it, or because we want to look cool. That's been done 40 years ago. We can't do that. And now, like I said, you look at it from a different perspective. So you come out with these great 2 albums. People are hounding you, screaming at you to play this stuff live. And you're always in the very tough and difficult position to say, right now, the Bob Katsionis is a project. It's not a band. We're hoping to make it into a band at some point, but it's just got to hit a level that it's going to be something that Bob and I can actually dive into 110%. Let's just put it that way. If we do that right now, if we actually go forward with a band, it's not going to be 110% from him or from me, and that's going to be disastrous. So instead of going through the motions, we said, let's just hold back, and when the time is right, we will know the time is right. That's when the Bob Katsionis project is going to become a band.
Do you not actually think if you had the opportunity, I think the Prog Power in Atlanta would be great for you guys?
That's what I'm talking about, Jason. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You honed in on one specific project, one specific festival, and one event. Let's just say there were 10 events of this level, of this caliber. Bob Katsionis would become a band. Believe me, it would. But for us to put this together, with everything that it would take to put this together, to reproduce what you're hearing on these 2 albums, for the fans to leave and say, wow, that sounded even better than the album, to do it at a club here locally in Athens, Greece, right at this moment, with everything that's happening here in Greece, the way things are, it's just not goddamn worth it. It's not, Jason. It's not.
I get
If
that.
Prague Power said it's worth it, then we would see that it's worth it. You know what I'm saying?
You'd get a band together just for that one show and fly out there and do it and come back.
Well, you know what? That's what Ray did. Ray never toured with his first album, his first solo album, but he played Prague Power. He put the band together. He got Mike Abdow. He got Van Dyke from Redemption, the guitarist.
Yeah.
He got his drummer. He got the bassist, the beautiful woman bassist. I forgot her name. She's awesome. She does great backup vocals. He got the band together for that one performance.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I'm saying. If we had the opportunity, the right opportunity, we would absolutely bring this to life in a live show.
Well, best of luck with that, Billy. So,
thank you about that.
So, because you're not doing anything with Vass or the Mate Concertinis, what would you do as a band now if you had the chance to do something before the next album comes out? What would you do?
Well, it's really easy for me, Jason, to just reinvent Terra Incognita. I have a band. It's my band. It's very well known here locally and in Europe. I mean, I could, at the snap of a finger, I could reboot the band. I just don't feel like that's what I want to do in my musical career at this point. I look at it as stepping backwards.
Yeah.
And I have one rule in my life, Jason. Everything that happens to me, I must move forward. Must move forward. So I try to avoid as much as possible going backwards. Rekindling the Terra Incognita saga would be me going backwards. That's how I would see it. I want to go forward. Of course, I'm not going to come up with some new band. There's absolutely no reason for that. Having a brand name that's already well known, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it with that brand name. Of course, every good vocalist is on the market. You know what I'm saying? If a band has a need for my style of singing and they make me an offer, of course, I'm a professional. Of course, I'm going to consider it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a reason why I keep myself fit. I keep my voice fit. I protect and I preserve my image for this exact reason. You know what I'm saying? This is, I'm Billy Vass, and I want the whole world to know that this is what I have to offer. You know what I mean? Right. I keep it at a high level, at a high caliber.
So what bands from Greece do people need to check out? What progressive bands are out there? Because I don't really know I know a lot of power metal bands from Greece, but not progressive. It seems to be quite quiet for the progressive scene in Greece for some reason.
You know what? That's exactly what I was going to say. There's really nothing coming out that's new, even from older vintage progressive metal bands.
I think it was a band called something Horizons, if I remember rightly, a Greek band. New Horizons, is it? New Horizons?
No, I think you're talking about Orion Path. Are you talking about Orion Path?
No, I think they're called New Horizons.
Yeah. New Horizons. Horizons. Oh, Horizons End.
That's them.
Horizons End. They just came out with a new album.
Okay.
That's the most recent of progressive metal to hit the scene right now. Horizons End. They are a Greek metal band, and they just came out with an album this month, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But it's really quiet on the progressive metal front. It really is. Nothing much going on. More power, classic, epic metal stuff coming out.
So is Bob still friends with Firewind then, Gus and everybody?
Absolutely, of course. That, that's a 25 year bond. That doesn't go away just because you left the band. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't go away. Absolutely, they're best friends. Absolutely,
That's good. I know Gus G. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's been around the world. Literally. I mean, that guy's got he's got it going on. Absolutely.
So, that's Billy, awesome. I'd like to thank you for doing this interview. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the best with this project. You've got my support, as you know.
Jason, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this interview, for taking the time, to be honest with you. And again, thank you for the support. And I'm hoping to have a second interview on the third album with you, man.
Definitely. Maybe meet up in Greece or something. You never know.
Wow, now that would be incredible. You coming all the way over here so have some beers and have an interview. That would be great.
So do you have anything to say to people watching this before we finish?
Yeah. Like I said, through the whole interview, if you're into progressive metal, if you're into really, really quality, good progressive metal music, you got to check us out.
I agree.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Jason. And you know what? Like I said, the album's called Cynical Silence, and I would really love for this cynical silence in the whole world right now to just go away, man, and just we have to put love back up on our priority list. That's just about it, Jason.
Right. Well, thank you. Have a good evening, Billy, and keep in touch.
Thanks, Jason.
I've done the
Excellent.
Ray
I'll start
interview.
promoting it. Excellent.
Yeah. And when I've done the Ray interview, I'll mention halfway through your band and see what reaction he gets, so you can check it out.
Oh. That'd be great. Thank you for that, Jason.
Cheers, brother. Thank you.
Take
Have
care,
a good
man.
evening.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.